point here is where a legend was born. They're down 13 points with 3 minutes to go. This is where a legend was born. Drives in on Kaylee Heckle, passes it in. There's a miss, then she goes and one. Realistically, should have got the assist there. Comes across, down 6, fading right, boom. 3-point game, 49 seconds to go.
With just 23 seconds on the clock and her team down, she launches a shot from what we can only call Caitlin Clark territory, like it's a routine layup. You know, that single shot might have completely shattered everything. We thought we understood about the 2028 WNBA draft. For months, all the attention has been on superstars like Juju Watkins and other established names, but then a 19-year-old from Canada just stormed onto the scene in the most stunning way imaginable. Silas Swords put on a show against UConn that has analysts digging for comparisons they haven't made since Caitlin Clark's legendary run during the COVID season. And look, when your name gets mentioned in that sentence, when the sports media starts calling you the Canadian Caitlin Clark, you've definitely done something huge. But here's why this feels so different from every other prospect that gets hyped up. This wasn't merely about the final score or some flashy highlights. This was about stepping up when the lights were brightest against one of the most respected programs in the nation, all while playing with a face mask and almost single-handedly engineering a comeback that had no business even being close.
The star-making performance from her. We might have seen a star-making performance in a loss from Silas Swords. And Silas Swords last year was one of the best freshmen in the nation. I'll say one of the best, because I don't know if I'm not going to go out there and say she was Michaela Blake's good, Joyce Edwards good, or or Sarah Strong good. But I'm going to be honest.
So let's get the full picture here, because the background is crucial. Last season, Silas Swords was already recognized as one of the top freshmen in the country, but she wasn't in that top-tier discussion, not on the level of Michaela Blake's or Joyce Edwards, and certainly not being compared to Juju Watkins or Sarah Strong. She was a gifted player, no doubt a key piece on a Michigan squad that went head-to-head with South Carolina in her college debut, where she impressively scored 26 points, but she was still viewed as being in that next tier down from the absolute elite. Now fast forward to the current season, and it's clear that something fundamental has changed. In the first half against UConn, Michigan was getting buried, down by 17 to 20 points. And let's be real, you just don't erase that kind of deficit against a powerhouse program like UConn. But apparently, Swords never got that message. Her very first score of the contest, a pull-up three-pointer while rocking a face mask, was so casual it felt like she was just letting everyone know that she was about to take complete control of the game.
Went in the Big Ten tournament last year. But yeah, comes in, steps into it, boom. And she's just very unorthodox with how she scores in general. When she's not shooting the three, she's just unorthodox. But again, their comeback, a lot of it was off the back of Silas Swords. And again, it's just...
Okay, you have to watch this sequence closely, because this is the kind of stuff that turns great players into legends. They're trailing by 13 points with only 3 minutes left to play. Swords makes a move on Kaylee Heckle and dishes it inside. The shot is missed. And in that moment, she just seems to decide that she is going to drag this team back into the game herself. She gets a screen, fades to her right, and absolutely nails it. Suddenly, it's a 3-point game with 49 seconds to go. UConn goes down and gets a basket. She gets the ball back, uses another screen, and again, fades to her right. Bang. Now it's a 2-point game with just 22 seconds left. At this stage, UConn knows precisely what's about to happen. They design an inbound play specifically to deny her the ball, but she comes flying off a flare screen, cuts left instead of right, pulls up from way downtown, and sinks it. That is the shot that has the entire internet buzzing. That's the highlight that has people digging up footage of Caitlin Clark's incredible game against Michigan from that wild COVID season.
You've got College Sports Only calling her the Canadian Caitlin Clark. Calling her the Canadian Caitlin Clark. Like, that's all people are talking about. Silas Swords pulled up like Caitlin Clark. Really hate Michigan. Didn't beat UConn. AZ Foot's a great player. AZ Foot's really fucking good. Lisa Bluer said Michigan women's basketball team gave Caitlin Clark a gift following the game. They all wrote Caitlin Stein. That's obviously it's after the game. But it reminds me of this game here. Like, I don't really care. Like, she was unbelievable. But it just reminds me of this, where they're down 12, whatever, 6 minutes to go. And Caitlin Clark just goes, bang. Let me just pull. Maybe what Silas Swords did was not from quite as deep. Maybe it's not from... Because this is the first time I remember being like, holy shit, who is this Caitlin Clark?
Let's actually rewind to that Caitlin Clark game for a second, because the similarities are honestly unbelievable. Iowa was playing with only 6 available players due to COVID protocols. They were down by 12 points with just 6 minutes remaining against Michigan. And then Caitlin Clark went completely nuclear. She was hitting shots from distances that defy logic, making baskets that had no right to fall. She was practically by herself, pulling her team back into a contest they should have lost by 30. And even though they ultimately lost the game, that display is what made everyone realize they were witnessing something truly special. Sound a little bit familiar? That's almost exactly what just went down with Swords against UConn. You see the same unconventional scoring talent, the same confidence to take and make impossible shots when everything is on the line, and the same total lack of fear regardless of the opponent or the score. The fact that both of these historic efforts came in losses is completely irrelevant. These are the moments that draw a line between very good players and future superstars. And here's the thought that should absolutely terrify every other team in women's college basketball. Swords is already a key player for Canada's national team. She was even on their Olympic roster while she was still in high school. Sure, she didn't get much playing time, but being there at all tells you everything you need to know about her potential. If you ask who will be the best scorer for Team Canada in a couple of years, the answer is very likely Silas Swords.
This might actually be the closest thing we've seen to it. And she could be, like, if there's anyone that's going to be the next Caitlin Clark, they have to be good. So your Kiyomi McMillers of the world aren't really these microwave scorers. And Silas Swords has already been really good for the Canadian national team. She's been a really good player for senior Canada national team. She's already one of their best players. She's probably, if you're asking me who is the best scorer on the Canadian national team, it's going to be, like, very soon it's going to be Silas Swords. She was on the Olympic team, didn't play much. Obviously, she was a high school student. But, like, she is genuinely the...
So, what does all of this mean for the 2028 draft class? This is where the conversation gets really fun. We all remember how absurdly loaded that 2024 class was, with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Cameron Brink leading the way. That was billed as a once-in-a-generation group of talent. But now, take a look at who's on the horizon. You have Silas Swords putting on performances like this. You have Michaela Blakes, who is an absolute monster at LSU. You have Joyce Edwards at South Carolina. Although, to be fair, the system at South Carolina means she'll probably never command the general public's focus in the same way these other players do. And what if Juju Watkins decides to stick around for her senior year? This upcoming draft class could seriously challenge, or maybe even be better than what we just saw in 2024. The key difference here is public exposure. With Caitlin Clark, Iowa basketball became an absolute must-see event because of her insane range and her magnetic personality. South Carolina, on the other hand, wins championships, but they achieve it through suffocating defense and a balanced offense, which just doesn't grab the attention of casual viewers. But Michigan, led by Swords and Olivia Olson, that team could become the single most entertaining show in all of women's college basketball this year.
Like, I'm trying to think of teams that I really liked watching last year. I really liked watching that Notre Dame team because it was stacked. And this year it doesn't feel like anyone's stacked. It feels like UConn have taken a step back, but they're still better. Like, it feels like they're worse than last year, but they're still better, if you get me. So, or they're still, better in comparison. I just don't feel like there's a Juju, Kiki Riafen, Kaylee Heckel, Avery Howell, Rhea Marshall team just sitting there. Like, I think Iowa losing Lucy Olson's huge, but yeah, Iowa might make the Elite Eight this year. They might fuck about and make the Elite Eight. So yeah, it's It is an interesting one.
Just think about the teams that people were genuinely excited to watch last season. Notre Dame had a loaded lineup and played a really fun brand of basketball. USC, of course, had Juju, and Iowa had Lucy Olson stepping into some impossibly large shoes. This season, though, it feels a bit different. It feels like the top-end talent is more spread out. But it also seems like there isn't one single overpowering team that is head and shoulders above everyone else. That kind of environment creates a vacuum, an opportunity for a player like Swords to step directly into that void and own the spotlight. And she's not just some volume shooter putting up empty numbers on a mediocre team. She's playing next to Olivia Olson, who you could make a strong case is the better all-around talent. Olson is more consistent, more well-rounded, and perhaps more essential to Michigan's overall success. But Olson doesn't have this. She doesn't possess that rare ability to completely hijack a game in the final 3 minutes against a top 5 opponent and make you truly believe that the impossible is about to unfold. That is what distinguishes a good player from a star. That is what made Caitlin Clark different from everyone else in her draft class. And that is exactly what Silas Swords just put on display for the world to see.
I'm very, very impressed with how Silas Swords has been doing. And I've been impressed. If you guys have been looking at this channel, I've been impressed with Silas Swords like since her first game. I've been really impressed with her since her first game. Because I was kind of keeping an eye out for her because I watched the Olympics and just saw they were like, everyone was talking about this high school player being on the Canadian team. And I was like, shit, like, it doesn't, I wouldn't, I'm surprised about that. And she's been as good as advertised. And not only that, again, it's not like Michigan are just Silas Swords either. You've got Olivia Olson, who you can make the argument is better. Not as fun to watch and not as capable of doing shit like this. But, like, you could definitely argue. You can definitely argue is a better player. So anyway, yeah, that is pretty much it, lads.
Here's the interesting thing about those career-defining, star-making performances. They don't always come in victories. As a matter of fact, some of the most iconic games in sports history have happened in losses. That's because it's in those moments of desperation that you witness a player's true essence. When the game is getting away from them and they simply refuse to give up without a fight. When they elevate their play beyond what anyone thought was possible under the circumstances. Caitlin Clark's legendary Michigan game was a loss, but it's the game that everyone points to when they talk about the moment they knew she was a different breed. It's the performance that always gets included in her highlight reels and career documentaries. The final score didn't matter nearly as much as what she showed about herself in that crucible. Silas Swords just had her own version of that very game. Down big against a powerhouse like UConn, wearing a protective face mask that would give most players a ready-made excuse for an off night. And she nearly orchestrated a miracle. The fact that Michigan didn't win in the end doesn't take away from what she did. If anything, it makes it even more remarkable, because she didn't have the help around her to complete what she started. So, the question now is, can she keep this up? Can she take this single performance and transform it into a season-long declaration of her arrival? Because that's what separates a memorable moment from a full-blown movement. Caitlin Clark had that Michigan game and then went on to absolutely dominate for the next 2 years, eventually shattering the NCAA scoring record and becoming the biggest star the sport has ever produced. Swords has the skill, she now has the signature moment, and she has the platform at Michigan with nationally televised games, a spotlight that players at South Carolina will just never receive. She has Olivia Olson to draw away some of the defensive attention. She has a Team Canada pedigree that gives her instant international respect. The one thing she needs to show now is consistency. She has to demonstrate that the UConn game wasn't some incredible fluke or a random outlier. She has to prove that when the lights are on and the pressure is at its peak, she is the one you want taking the final shot. And based on what we all just witnessed, based on how unbelievably calm she appeared while pulling up from 30 feet out with the game hanging in the balance, I have a feeling she's more than ready for that pressure. The 2028 WNBA draft is still 4 years down the road, which feels like an eternity in the sports world. But you have to remember, we're watching these athletes grow in real time. We're witnessing the moments that will come to define their legacies before they even realize what's happening. Caitlin Clark probably didn't know that the Michigan game would become part of her legend. She was just trying to win. Silas Swords probably doesn't understand yet that this UConn performance might be the one everyone looks back on as the night she became a true star. She was just trying to pull off an insane comeback. But that's just how these things unfold. The moments often choose the player as much as the player chooses the moment. So here's what I'll be looking for as this season continues. Can Michigan emerge as a real title contender with Swords and Olsen at the helm? Can Swords maintain this incredible level of fearless shot-making against top-tier opponents? And maybe most importantly, can she handle the immense pressure that's about to come with being called the next Caitlin Clark? Because that title is as much of a burden as it is an honor. There will likely only ever be one Caitlin Clark. The unique circumstances that fueled her rise to stardom, that perfect combination of talent, timing, personality, and platform, that isn't something you can just duplicate. But if there is anyone out there with a chance to bottle even a little bit of that lightning to become the player that casual fans go out of their way to watch, it just might be Silas Swords. That game against UConn was only the introduction. The real test is just beginning. Can she live up to the hype? Can she deliver when everyone is watching to see if she's for real? Can she